Yeah. Sorry, we've been watching TikToks. Hi, folks. So, tell me, when you hear these 4 things, what comes to mind? 1500s Hungary, bathtubs, royalty, and honey. If you were thinking European amateur beekeeping, I wish you were right. Because it'd be a fuck ton less violent. Or maybe not. I don't know beekeeping. The end of my girl was horrific. Anyways, to make a long story short, we're talking about the Blood Countess today. Come hear about an old folktale. I'm John.
And I'm Kat.
And this is Castagast. Sweet damn diddly darn. This isn't Small Town Murders. Do we have a good story today?
It was a Monday. I mean, it was uneventful, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, were you meaning the story that I'm telling, or were you asking me if we had a good story?
We had a disagreement before we started recording this. I was responding to a business text message, and
by business he means a personal text message.
And Kat was just fumbling about, muttering to herself like she usually does, and apparently I was supposed to be paying attention.
By muttering, I mean having a complete conversation with him that he chose to ignore because his face was in the phone.
It's hard to tell when she's talking to me because she talks to herself like a crazy person.
Ladies and gentlemen, start a podcast with your partner. It will be the best thing you've ever done, I promise you.
We're working through our issues while talking about other people's issues.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about murder and death.
Yes, I do believe we have a good story today. We're going way, way back with today's story.
Now, is this going to be like a heartfelt story? Like, is there going to be a good moral at the end of this?
Yes, and some good, secrets to take care of your youthful skin and things like that.
It could be an oil olay.
Yeah.
Is it oil?
It's oil of olay.
That's triple O's.
And like you chose the one from the 70s.
Oh, whatever.
It was L'Oreal Clinique.
I don't like L'Oreal because of that fucking apostrophe.
What L'Oreal product do you use? Or
shampoo.
You use you're a man. You use those 3-in-1 concoctions.
No, I do not use the fucking 3. I don't use the fucking 3-in-1.
Body wash, shave gel, and shampoo. Women.
Can you imagine a shave gel? Just clean yourself with shave gel.
We have to have a product for each area of our body. All right. So today we are talking about the Blood Countess.
How does one become a Blood Countess?
Well, let's sit back and find out.
I can't sit back. I have no back to my seat.
We are sitting on benches at our dinner table.
With Irish coffees.
With Carolyn's in there. Cheers.
Right. Have a sip every time we say fuck.
Okay. So the Blood Countess, also known as Elizabeth Bathory, was born on August 7th, 1560.
Oh, so she's a boomer.
In near Batar, Hungary. She was born into wealth. Her family had control of most of Transylvania, and her uncle, Stephen Bathory, or Stephen or Stefan?
If it's Transylvanian, you'd be like, Stefan.
Yeah, Stefan.
What's your name? My name is Stefan.
Yeah, I'm going to say Stefan.
Stephen. Stephen, come on down. We're going to put someone on spike.
He was the king of Poland.
Ah.
So Elizabeth Bathory was raised in the Etched Castle, spelled E-C-S-E-D. As a child, she did suffer from seizures. It's been reported that she very likely had epilepsy. However, epileptic symptoms were just reported as falling illness in the 1500s. So she never received any proper treatment, if they even would know what proper treatment would be. The types of treatment for falling sickness back then consisted of rubbing the blood of a non-sufferer to an epileptic person.
Rubbing the blood?
of a non-sufferer, so on a non-epileptic person, rub the blood on the lips of the sufferer. Or
that's ridiculous.
Give them a mix of a non-sufferer or non-epileptic's blood and a piece of their skull.
What?
So, you know, a lot of people probably were not volunteering for that kind of donation.
I would love to help my countess, but must I die to
I
help
wonder
her?
what the signs look like for those, like, donations. Like, please, in need of blood and pieces of skull.
That's
Apply today. So, unfortunately, with this story being so old and passing through many lips, the lines of fact and fiction have become blurred.
You mean they don't keep good records in the 1500s?
They don't keep good records in 2021.
Have you seen CNN?
Yeah. So, however, it has been reported that Elizabeth was raised to be cruel. There have been witness reports that stated that these witnesses saw brutal punishments given to her by the family's officers, and that her family members were involved in Satanism and witchcraft.
Well, you gotta have a hobby.
And again, take this with a grain of salt. This is 1560. So when Elizabeth was 11 or 12, she met her future husband, Ferenc Nadasti. He came from an aristocratic Hungarian family and was 4 years older than Elizabeth. So not that big of an age difference.
It's normal.
Prior to marrying him, though, at the age of 13, Elizabeth reportedly gave birth to a child that was fathered by a peasant boy.
Ah.
The child was given to a woman that the Bathorys trusted. She was paid, and the child was taken to Wallachia.
Wallachia.
Well, when I looked up the pronunciations, that's not how it's pronounced.
Well, you and I both watched Transylvania.
I thought
Castlevania on Netflix. They say Wallachia.
Well, Google the pronunciation because they said Wallachia.
Wallachia. You had to say it like that. Wallachia.
Wallachia.
You're in Wallachia.
Okay. It is rumored that Ferenc Nadasti had the biological father of this child, who again was a peasant boy, castrated, then torn apart by dogs.
In that order.
And, you know.
Because that could, both things could be happening at once.
Allegedly.
Jesus.
So Elizabeth and Ferenc married in 1575. She was 14 years old and he was 18. His wedding gift to her was his household, the castle of Chieti.
That's a nice gift.
It was purchased by his mother, then given to him, which he then gave to Elizabeth on their wedding day.
I wonder what the purchase of a castle would be
Back then.
Like what would it be like? What
The
would
transaction, the process.
Yeah, like what does the real estate agent get for that transaction?
What's the commission?
Yeah, what's their commission? Were they like, was it a bully offer they put in, or
did they have the house inspection?
Yeah, did they walk through it? Oh, this is really nice. I love the way it faces the east.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways.
Is your copper wiring all up to snuff?
Shortly after they wed, Ferenc became the chief commander for the Hungarian army. This resulted in him being away a lot, so Elizabeth and Ferenc did not have their first child until 1585, so 10 years after their marriage, which I'm sure then was extremely unlikely. The man usually likes to get the heir out as soon as possible.
I see. So she was like 24 when she had her first.
Very good.
So, that was nice of him, not, making a minor give birth.
Well, that was common back then, though.
14 and 18.
Yeah.
So he was into Star Wars cars and she was into Pogs,
Oh, gosh. We're dating ourselves with that one. Elizabeth gave birth to a daughter, Anna, who later became the wife of Nikola Zrinski VI, a Croatian count. They had 4 other children after Anna.
Why?
Orsika, Katerina, Andras, and Paul.
Paul seems a little bit out of place, doesn't it?
I thought the same thing when I was doing my research. I was like, Paul? Anyways. So sadly, Ferenc...
Like, not even Paulo?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Paul.
So sadly, Ferenc died at the age of 48 on January 4th, 1608. The illness that led to his death is unknown. However, around 1601 or 1602, he was suffering from debilitating pain in his legs, and he eventually did become disabled.
It sounds to me like he died from being 48 in the 1500s.
Yeah. It was likely that this was the illness that led to his death. They were married for 29 years by the time of his passing.
How romantic.
So between 1602 and 1604, there were rumors spreading about Elizabeth's brutalities.
Rumors around the old well.
The old moat.
The old moat.
Instead of the water cooler.
Around the shit that he splashed into the street.
Yes. So this came after several reports of a peasant woman who was murdered, but these claims were ignored. Istvan Magyari, a Lutheran minister, made many complaints with her to the public and the court of Vienna. In 1610, King Matthias II assigned Georg Thurzo, the Palatine of Hungary, to investigate. Thurzo was also who Ferenc left his heirs and widow to. In March of 1610, Georg assigned 2 notaries to investigate and collect evidence. By October, they had 52 witness statements.
This seems awfully organized for the 1500s. Maybe I just think people in the 1500s were imbeciles, but
yeah, I doubt it.
They went through 52 witness. They actually went and tried to get witness statements.
What year does Skyrim take place in?
Well, Skyrim takes place in the 4th era, in the 200th, I think somewhere in the 200th year.
Okay,
of the 4th
and they
era.
were pretty organized.
Well, they had magic.
Not all of them.
When was Shakespeare? Was he 1500s or 1600s?
You're the English major.
Well, that really says a lot about my degree then, doesn't it?
In March of 1610, Georg assigned 2 notaries to investigate and collect evidence. By October, they had 52 witness statements. By 1611, that number grew to 300. So
Wow.
from 52 to 300
They've
in
been
a year.
busy.
Yeah.
Wow.
These statements claimed that Bathory tortured and killed more than 600 girls with the help of her servants, who were also put on trial as accomplices. It was said that her crimes took place after the death of her husband. Her alleged crimes were against women only. They were servant girls, or women of wealth that would come out from outside of Hungary that would come there for training and education.
Or they would train like a
How
little ladies' school.
how to be a countess or probably something like that. And it was those missing girls that started drawing the attention, not the missing servants.
Yeah, maybe learn who to kill. Don't kill high-profile folk.
She allegedly would cover her victims in honey and would leave them outside for the insects to eat. In the colder weather, she would force them into ice baths, then send them outside naked to freeze to death.
What is she, like a fucking Nazi scientist? Who does shit like this? Does she have like a hypothesis? I wonder if they'll freeze and die. Let's see how long they last.
That's a means of torture.
Fuck.
She would drive needles under their fingernails. Scissors were one of her favorite instruments. She would use them to cut their lips and noses off,
Oh my god.
as well as cut the skin between their fingers. She would sew their lips shut and burn their flesh and genitals. She would also bite chunks out of their shoulders and breasts. It's also rumored that she would bathe in the virgin's victim's blood. So if she had any virgins, then she would bathe in their blood.
Sounds like we have a new Disney villain.
There's our youthful secret there. Just bathe in the blood of a virgin. So the trial wrapped up. They were all found guilty. So the three out of the 4 servants were executed. The one just received life in prison. I'm assuming they cooperated. I don't get why 3 out of the 4 were just executed. Elizabeth was not tried. She was not given a chance to defend herself in court. but she was held in solitary confinement within her castle. She was confined to a room that had to have all the windows walled up.
So she couldn't kill herself?
That, or escape, whatever it may be. She did die in this room at the age of 54 in 1614. So that's the end of the Blood Countess, Elizabeth Bathory. But she does hold the Guinness World Record for the most prolific female murderer. One of her accomplices...
Who's number 2? Karla Homolka?
No, I doubt her. Probably one of those psycho women that would like murder nursing home residents, or the baby farm. Have you ever heard of the baby farm killer?
No.
We'll cover her, I'm sure, sometime. But she would take babies from unwed mothers that were scared to, given the time to carry or have the baby, because back then if you weren't married it was a sin to have a child.
Yeah, how dare you.
She would take these kids and just murder them. So I'm sure, yeah, those people.
What happened to knitting? Like to bide your time.
Needlepoint.
There was lots of stuff for this dumb countess to do,
Yeah. So one of her accomplices was a wet nurse. She was convicted of witchcraft and burned at the stake.
Well, that's all part and parcel of being a wet nurse.
Which I found interesting, because though it was said just to be rumor that her family was into witchcraft when she was a child, I find it interesting that one of her favorite accomplices that was a wet nurse was into witchcraft. But, I mean, back then, if you brewed tea and burned sage, you're considered a witch. So what we consider to be like natural remedies and medicine now was considered witchcraft then. So
hippies.
Yeah,
hippies
exactly.
were witches back in the day.
100% they were. There is a rumor that King Matthias may have framed Bathory. So he owed a debt to Elizabeth's husband that Elizabeth inherited after her husband passed. So Matthias had no intention on paying this debt. So some believe that is why he denied her a trial and a chance to defend herself in court and just had her imprisoned because of this debt.
That's pretty handy when you owe a debt.
That's a theory as well.
Wouldn't that be nice if you could do that to the fucking credit card companies?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I don't feel like playing my credit card. I'm going to just head over to Scotiabank's CEO office and just
confine them to their office.
Just frame them for fucking murdering people.
Though there are legitimate statements regarding her abuse towards staff. Apparently, her and her husband were pretty rough and unkind towards her staff. Though that may be all that she is guilty of. Worst case scenario, she murdered 600 people. Best case scenario, all she was guilty of was
being a shitty employer.
Being a bitch, to her staff.
Yes,
so
it sounds like working at Chipotle.
So it takes...
In 2021.
So take it with a grain of salt, this story. But, however, it is very interesting. She was a very interesting looking woman.
Why? How does she look?
Well, you'll see when we post it. So what do you think of the Blood Countess?
Has there been any have they done any movies based on her, or is she based off anything? Is Dracula or any of the characters in Dracula based off her?
It is said that Bram Stoker's inspiration came from her story.
Really?
For Dracula. Yeah.
Not Vlad the Impaler?
What I read was that parts of her story is what inspired him. Maybe it was a combination of Vlad, and she did hold the record of victims until Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah, Vlad went nuts. We'll have to cover him.
Yeah, for sure we will. There's a whole bunch of crazy vampire stories. Even now, people just believing they're vampires and drinking human blood. Though I won't kink shame anyone if it's consensual.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting to cover an older story and focus on a woman instead of some of the crazy men we've covered.
So you said 600 victims was
Yeah.
That's how big are the villages in 1560?
Well, again, a lot of people are traveling. I imagine even back then, Hungary was fairly large still.
I think it is the middle, right in the smack dab in Europe.
Yeah.
Continental Europe.
A lot of people are coming in probably off boats and stuff too, looking for jobs and work while they're traveling. I'm sure it was not hard at all. And this is over the course of 2 years.
That's a busy 2 years. I can't think of doing 600 of anything in 2 years.
You do 600 push-ups in a week.
Okay. Well,
But I'm not.
Look, I was trying to make a fucking joke here.
I'm not going to compare murdering a person to a push-up, though.
It's a little bit tougher,
It's a little
I
bit more
imagine.
strenuous, I'm sure.
I wonder how many. So she bathed in the virgin's blood. Like, how many virgins do you think would take to fill up a bathtub? How many liters of blood are in a person?
I don't know. If only we had cell phones to Google this
Yeah,
information.
it's not the 1980s. We can find out. Maybe I shouldn't use my work phone. I'm using DuckDuckGo so I don't end up on the list. Oh, get out of images. The average adult weighing 150 to 180 pounds should have about 1.2 to 1.5 gallons of blood in their body. This is about 4,500 to 5,700 milliliters. Okay, so how much does it take to fill a bathtub? The standard bathtub will hold roughly around 80 gallons of water. What do we say here?
5,700 milliliters.
80 gallons of water. 1.2 to 1.5 gallons of blood.
Is in one person?
Yeah, in
So
an adult who's like 150 to 180 pounds. So
when servant girls were not 150 pounds, they were probably very skinny.
So if you wanted to fill up so we'll say maybe like
Well, we
round
never
down
said,
to
too, that she filled the tub.
But
it was
like
just
one-
said that she bathed in their blood. She could have just added some of their blood into existing water.
So she went through 600 people and she's a countess. She
Not
just
all
lined
of
them
were,
up.
Not all 600 were virgins.
So what we've learned here is that if you want to bathe in virgin's blood and you want to have a nice, well-filled tub, you would need probably around 80 people.
But we recommend against doing this. Do not do this.
Consensual or not, I don't care.
No. Go to your local butcher and acquire some
Get some virgin
animal blood.
There's like veal sales go up.
Anyways, so that is Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess.
So she didn't bathe in blood. She had like a sponge bath in virgin's blood. Really?
Well, we don't know. You're really overthinking the bathing of the blood.
What were your thoughts about her?
I thought she was, for lack of a better word, fascinating. That's why I wanted to cover her story.
A bit of a childhood hero for you?
Just to think of someone having that kind of frame of mind back then. But again, if she was raised that way, remember those crazy torture devices and stuff from the medieval times? When did that stop happening?
Oh, fuck, I don't know.
Because maybe she had seen torture go on.
She seemed pretty adept at it.
Yeah. So it might have been a completely normal thing to her.
Yeah. Well.
But I thought it was an interesting story. The theory about the debt is interesting because why was she denied a trial?
Yeah, good question.
Mm-hmm. And that the king appoints the man who inherited her and his heirs, Ference's heirs. So that's interesting too, that the man who inherited her was appointed to investigate.
Yeah, seems like there's a conflict of interest.
I do think there's a bit of a rabbit hole there,
But, Hungarians in the 1500s.
Yeah, crazy kids.
Yeah, those wild and crazy kids.
Yeah, all right.
All right, good talk.
Good talk to you.
All right, see you later, folks.
Oh, God. You can check us out on YouTube at Catam Concoction.
That's CATAMCONCOCTION.
And on Instagram at cast_aghast.
Remember, there's a silent H.